not only from the fact it's in a way exploiting them. Secondly, I can't imagine that Prince Harry is particularly pleased about it. And in the longer run...
So picture this, because honestly, you couldn't write a soap opera half as messy if you tried. Tyler Perry, billionaire mogul, the man who literally opened the golden gates of his Beverly Hills fortress to Harry and Meghan when they were sobbing about how the palace cut them off, is now apparently done playing fairy godfather and is slamming the bill down on the Montecito dinner table like a waiter at a cheap steakhouse saying, "Pay up, kids, no more freebies." $16 million. Let that number linger for a second. 16 million that was supposed to prop up their shiny, independent life, their private security after they stomped out of royal duties, their sprawling Montecito mansion, with 12 bathrooms that nobody asked for, and of course all the other lifestyle trimmings that go with being a self-proclaimed power couple in exile. And now, the patience of Perry, a man who made his billions off hustle, grind, and empire building, has apparently run out, and sources are saying he wants it back. Every cent, no excuses, no royal privilege, no Hollywood handouts. Can you imagine the humiliation? Because I can. This is not just about money, it's about image. And honey, the Sussex image has been circling the drain for a while now, but this one, this Perry loan bombshell, could be the moment the whole brand implodes in real time. Think about the optics here. When Harry and Meghan first bolted from royal life in 2020, they wrapped themselves in this dramatic little bow of independence. Remember that? Financially independent, they said, proudly thumping their chests about how they didn't need the crown's purse strings, how they would carve their own path, build their empire, and prove that they were not just royals but entrepreneurs. Activists, philanthropists, blah blah blah. And the world, or at least a certain corner of Hollywood and California, actually bought it for about 5 minutes. Until, of course, the receipts started rolling in, like Tyler Perry footing the bill for their safety detail, the multi-million-dollar Montecito mansion purchased thanks to, surprise surprise, outside money, and the not-so-secret whispers that independence looked an awful lot like living off Hollywood IOUs. And here's Perry, a man who doesn't exactly need to worry about cash flow, but who clearly cares about principles and reputation, now allegedly saying, enough. Because even Tyler Perry knows a loan is a loan, and apparently even royals in exile don't get a free pass forever. And doesn't that just perfectly slice open the Sussex fairy tale? They told the world they left the monarchy to be free, to earn their own way, to stand tall as individuals unshackled by the palace machine. But the reality looks a whole lot like billionaire benefactors underwriting their every move. It's giving trust fund babies playing entrepreneur with other people's money. And now, when the call comes due, suddenly the empire looks like a house of cards. Netflix was supposed to be their jackpot, right? $100 million deal in 2020 that sounded like freedom, sounded like independence, sounded like they were going to be Hollywood moguls in their own right. And what did they actually deliver? A documentary that drew headlines but fizzled fast, and Meghan's With Love project that critics branded as duller than dishwater and audiences left to rot in the corner of Netflix's endless carousel. Spotify was supposed to be the other jewel, $20 million for a podcast deal that the platform eventually torched after just one series, with insiders allegedly calling them grifters behind the scenes. Grifters, can you believe that? That word alone was like a dagger straight through their PR balloon. So you pile flop on flop, disappointment on disappointment, brand value slipping like sand through their fingers, and now Perry, who once looked like their guardian angel, sees the writing on the wall and doesn't want to be stuck holding the bag. But, oh, it gets juicier because Tyler Perry isn't some casual friend you can ghost and hope it goes away. He's a billionaire mogul with an empire that touches every corner of Hollywood, and if he's demanding repayment, do you really think other industry insiders aren't watching like hawks? Hollywood is built on relationships, and relationships are built on trust. And if the whispers are true that Harry and Meghan owe Perry $16 million, You better believe every studio executive, every sponsor, every potential collaborator is sitting back and thinking, if they stiffed Tyler Perry, what would they do to us? That's the kiss of death in a town where reputation is everything. First, Spotify calls you grifters, then Netflix scales back your projects, then corporate sponsorships hesitate to attach their names, and now your billionaire benefactors chasing you down for repayment? That's not independence, darling. That's chaos. And corporations hate chaos. Let's be clear, Perry's demand isn't just about the money. He could lose $16 million tomorrow and barely blink. This is about principle, about the fact that he helped them when no one else would, that he put his reputation on the line when they were painting themselves as victims of palace cruelty. And now he looks like he's being played. For Perry, a man who clawed his way to the top by sheer force of work ethic, lending millions to a couple who branded themselves as hard-working, self-made, and then watching them fritter away deals while playing perpetual victims must sting. The man built an empire from scratch. He respects grind. He respects paying your dues. And from the outside looking in, Harry and Meghan seem to have confused philanthropy with other people funding their luxury while they give speeches about compassion from the back of chauffeured SUVs. Perry allegedly said it himself. Alone is alone. Even for royals. And that cuts deep, doesn't it? Because in one stroke, he demolishes their carefully curated image of being special, of being exempt, of being the golden couple who deserve exceptions. And let's talk about how this all lands with the public, because perception is brutal. Already, people were side-eyeing the Montecito bubble, the 12-bathroom mansion, the endless private jets while they lecture about climate change, the designer wardrobes paired with interviews about compassion. Hypocrisy has always been their Achilles heel, but now add in this loan drama. A billionaire bailout dressed up as independence, and suddenly every speech, every charity photo op, every teary interview looks like smoke and mirrors. Critics are already sharpening their knives, saying, "See, they're not independent. They're Hollywood dependents. Victims of nothing but their own bad choices." And when Perry, the ultimate symbol of Hollywood generosity, says he wants his money back, the whole fantasy collapses. And can we just pause for the irony here? Remember those smug declarations about how Harry and Meghan didn't need the crown's money, how they were free, how they were finally living life on their own terms. Well, apparently, own terms looks an awful lot like taking out a multi-million-dollar loan from a Hollywood mogul, blowing it on a mansion and security detail, and then hoping the Netflix fairy and the Spotify genie would sprinkle enough magic dust to make the debt disappear. Except the deals flopped, the fairy dust evaporated, and now the cold reality of bills is knocking at the door. Independence isn't independence when your billionaire friend is playing your bank. That's not freedom. That's dependence dressed up in PR gloss. And, oh, the children. That's the next layer of this scandal that nobody wants to touch, but everyone whispers about. Because imagine Archie and Lilibet growing up. One day, scrolling the archives, reading about how their parents told the world they left the palace for freedom, only to find out they were bankrolled by Tyler Perry and then chased for repayment. Imagine realizing that your childhood castle in Montecito wasn't bought by your parents' hard work, but by a loan from a family friend who later wanted his cash back. That's not a fairy tale, that's a cautionary tale. And you better believe the tabloids will be waiting years down the line to rub that in their faces. And while all this is going down, let's not forget the bigger picture. Harry's lawsuits against UK tabloids and the Home Office over security. Meghan's endless attempts to reinvent herself as everything from lifestyle guru to Netflix producer, to podcast host, the climate lectures undercut by private flights, the endless victim narrative. It's all piling up, and Tyler Perry's loan demand feels like the final cherry on top of a disaster sundae. Because lawsuits make you look bitter, failed projects make you look incompetent, but owing your billionaire friend millions makes you look entitled and broke. That's a trifecta of PR poison, and Hollywood is nothing if not pragmatic. Already, their invitations have dried up. Gone are the days of front-row seats at every gala, Vogue covers, prime talk show slots. Publicists whisper that brands are nervous, that nobody wants to hitch their wagon to a couple drowning in lawsuits and debt drama. One PR insider allegedly said, "Hollywood loves a power couple, but not one drowning in chaos." And chaos is the exact word. Every time they try to reset the narrative, another scandal erupts. Spotify called them grifters. Netflix said no thanks to more fluff. GSK refused to bankroll Harry's private jet to the UK. And now Perry, their one true Hollywood ally, is knocking on the door with a bill. That's not just bad luck. That's a brand in freefall. So what happens next? Do they pay Perry back in full, swallowing their pride and admitting they've been living beyond their means? Do they try to spin it as another victim story, saying they were pressured or misunderstood? Or do they do what critics fear most? Ignore it, drag their heels, and risk the nuclear fallout of being labeled not just entitled, but untrustworthy with money. Whatever happens, one thing is clear. Tyler Perry's demand is more than a personal embarrassment. It's a neon-lit billboard flashing the reality that Harry and Meghan's empire is built on borrowed cash and borrowed time. The Sussex brand once promised resilience, independence, global influence. Now it's starting to look like a punchline, a cautionary tale of what happens when you trade a crown for a checkbook you can't balance. And honestly, I have to ask you, how much longer can they keep this up? How many more humiliations can pile on before the curtain falls completely? Because right now, the narrative isn't Harry and Meghan, brave independent royals. It's Harry and Meghan, Hollywood grifters who stiffed Tyler Perry. And in the world of PR, that headline might be the one that finally sticks. We have to start with the kind of whisper that turns into a roar, the kind of rumor that begins behind closed doors but ends up plastered across every front page, every gossip blog, every YouTube channel that lives for the collapse of an overhyped fairy tale. Tyler Perry, the billionaire who once swooped in like a savior when Harry and Meghan fled the royal family, has allegedly decided it's time to collect $16 million. Not a gift, not a favor, not some friendly Hollywood gesture of goodwill. A loan, a formalized loan. And let's not pretend this is just pocket change or some vague gentleman's agreement. We're talking contracts, repayment clauses, interest, penalties, and the very real possibility that if Harry and Meghan refuse to cough up, this entire mess goes public. Court filings, debt disputes, headlines screaming Duke and Duchess sued for $16 million. Imagine that spectacle. Imagine the British tabloids foaming at the mouth, the American press circling like sharks, the late-night hosts feasting on punchlines that write themselves. And imagine, just for a moment, the cold sweat running down Meghan's spine at the thought of her and Harry's private financial records, the spending, the bank accounts, the wild burn rate of cash, being dragged into the public square for the world to pick apart. Stay with us, because this isn't just a money story. This is a humiliation story. This is a reputational implosion waiting to happen. Let's be clear, independence has always been their brand. Financially independent. That was the line. Remember? Leaving the firm, rejecting royal money, making their own way in the world as empowered philanthropists and media moguls. But what does independence look like when you're allegedly borrowing $16 million from Hollywood friends just to keep the lights on at your Montecito mansion? When you're racking up debt while lecturing the world on empowerment, sustainability, and being your own person, it looks like hypocrisy. It looks like entitlement dressed up in PR-friendly packaging, and worse, it looks like a brand collapsing under its own contradictions. Because you can fool the world for a little while, but eventually the receipts come due. Literally. And that's the point here. This isn't just Perry saying, "Pay me back." This is Perry making a statement, drawing a line in the sand. He gave them a house when they had none. He gave them protection when the royal family cut them loose. He gave them Hollywood credibility when nobody knew where these two ex-royals would land. And now, after all that, the thanks he gets. A gaping financial hole and a PR disaster circling his name by association. You can almost hear the frustration in his voice. Enough. Pay me what you owe. And for Harry and Meghan, that demand is more than just financial. It's symbolic. It's the clearest possible sign that even their most loyal friends have stopped covering for them. That the free rides are over. That Hollywood is done playing benefactor to the runaway royals. But let's dig deeper, because the delicious irony is too rich to ignore. If Perry formalized the loan, then there are contracts, legal documents, clauses about repayment, interest, default, penalties. And if Harry and Meghan refuse or drag their feet, those contracts go to court. And court means filings. And filings mean public record. And public record means every sordid detail splashed across the media for weeks. Just picture it. Legal analysts on CNN breaking down the repayment schedule, tabloids poring over the couple's bank statements, armchair accountants tallying up how much Netflix money has already been blown, how much of Spotify's advance vanished into thin air, how much of their so-called philanthropic empire was funded by borrowed millions. Stay tuned, because if this ever hits the courts, it won't just be a scandal. It'll be a public autopsy of the Sussex brand. And let's not pretend public opinion isn't already turning. It is. Brutally. Once upon a time, America sympathized. Britain sneered, but Americans loved a good underdog story. But sympathy is wearing thin. First, the Netflix flop, then the Spotify debacle, then whispers of more projects stalling, publishers second-guessing, corporate sponsors pulling back. Now, Tyler Perry allegedly wants his money back. Former fans, even people who defended them at the start, are openly mocking. Online reactions are savage. How do you go from royal palaces to begging Hollywood friends for $16 million? Independence doesn't mean mooching off billionaires. Climate change lectures from people flying private jets on borrowed money. People are tired. Tired of contradictions. Tired of victimhood narratives paired with luxury mansions and A-list parties. Tired of being told these two are rebels. Reinventing royalty when they look more like reality TV stars with trust fund problems. And here's the sting. Polls. The numbers don't lie. Harry's UK approval ratings are scraping rock bottom. Meghan's even worse. And the American numbers? Heading south fast. Once sympathetic, now skeptical. Because when even Americans, who love a comeback, who love a scandal, who love a rebel, start losing patience, you know the brand is in trouble. And the Tyler Perry repayment demand is more than just another headline. It's a tipping point, a symbol, the moment when everyone, Hollywood, corporations, the public, even former allies, looks at the Sussexes and says, "We don't trust you anymore." And in Hollywood, trust is everything. Trust is currency. Once it's gone, you don't get it back. Now, let's pause here and ask the question we know you're dying to answer. Is Perry right? Is this just a billionaire enforcing boundaries? Or is it the clearest, most brutal sign that Harry and Meghan have burned through every bridge they had left? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this isn't just another royal drama. This is the collapse of a brand happening in real time. And we want to know, do you think they've hit rock bottom, or is there still lower to fall? Because let's be honest, this isn't just about Perry. This is about the entire house of cards. If one billionaire steps forward to demand repayment, who's next? Whispers are already swirling. Other debts, strained friendships, unpaid obligations, media contracts that didn't deliver, Spotify gone, Netflix stalling, book deals wobbling, and behind it all, the whispers of more borrowed money, more unpaid favors, more people quietly tallying up what they're owed. Stay with us, because If Perry opens the floodgates, this could turn from one embarrassing repayment demand into a full-on exodus of burned allies demanding their piece of the pie. And while Hollywood circles, let's not forget the royal family, watching from across the Atlantic, cold and silent. No bailouts, no lifelines, no soft landings. Charles and William have reportedly made it clear there will be no financial rescue, no reputational cleanup. They chose their path, they burned their bridges, and now they're on their own. And in a twisted way, isn't that exactly what Harry and Meghan claim to want? Independence, freedom, life outside the firm? Well, here it is. Independence without a safety net, freedom without a parachute. The spotlight turning cold, the money running thin, the friends pulling back. And soon, perhaps, the lawsuits piling up. But we know what you're thinking. Is this the end? Is this really the final chapter? Or is it just the beginning of an even more chaotic downfall? Hollywood forgives scandals. It forgives bad press. It forgives arrogance, hypocrisy, even humiliation. But what it doesn't forgive, what it never forgives, is becoming a liability. And that's what Harry and Meghan are becoming. A walking, talking, $16 million liability. The kind of liability no studio, no corporation, no billionaire friend wants to touch. And yet, the irony is delicious, isn't it? For a couple who built their post-royal lives on controlling the narrative is slipping from their hands. They wanted to tell their story their way. Documentaries, podcasts, memoirs. But now the story is being told by creditors, by headlines, by analysts, by former fans who have turned into critics. The more they insist on their independence, the more dependent they look. The more they insist on their victimhood, the more entitled they seem. The more they talk about love and service, the more the world sees contracts, lawsuits, and debt. Stay tuned, because this isn't just hypocrisy, it's the kind of hypocrisy that destroys legacies. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud, but we'll say it anyway. What happens when the money really runs out? What happens when the deals dry up, when the sponsors walk away, when the projects flop? What happens when the Montecito mansion starts looking less like a sanctuary and more like a gilded cage they can't afford to keep? Will they downsize? Will they sell? Will they go crawling back to the very institution they swore to escape? Imagine that humiliation. Imagine the headlines. Exiled royals return, empty-handed. Stay with us, because if you think 16 million is the end of the story, you haven't seen anything yet. And the beauty of gossip, of scandal, is that it always gets worse. Always. Already, whispers say Netflix isn't renewing. Spotify is long gone. Publishers are nervous about Harry's next book. Corporate partners are skittish. Hollywood. Insiders, the same ones who once tripped over themselves to invite the Sussexes to dinners and premieres, are now quietly dropping them from guest lists. And now Tyler Perry, the man who literally sheltered them when nobody else would, allegedly wants his 16 million back. When even your friends stop protecting you, when even your allies want distance, that's not just a red flag. That's a death sentence for a brand. So here's where we stand, and we'll say it slowly so it sinks in. A billionaire benefactor wants his $16 million back. Hollywood is turning cold. Corporations are pulling away. Public opinion is brutal. The royal family won't help. And Harry and Meghan, once the golden couple who promised to reinvent royalty, are staring down the kind of headlines no brand survives. This isn't just another PR hiccup. This isn't another clumsy photo op or tone-deaf podcast. This is a financial, legal, and reputational disaster. And it's the kind of disaster that ends careers. And you, the audience, you've been with us from the start. You've seen the highs, the lows, the drama, the contradictions. You've watched the Netflix series, the Oprah interview, the endless media spin. And now you're watching the collapse. So comment below. Start the debate. Is this the final chapter of Harry and Meghan's Hollywood dream? Or is it just the beginning of their downfall? Hit like if you think financial accountability matters. Share this with someone who's followed the Sussex saga from the start. And subscribe. Because trust us, this story isn't over. Not by a long shot. The lawsuits, the backlash, the whispers, this is just the beginning. And the storm that's coming, the Sussexes may not survive it. This is Crown and Controversy, unraveling the royals one scandal at a time. Don't forget to subscribe.